Today, I'm going to talk about why the Slate might just be an expensive toy. What's happening, Panda Nation? Pete here. Today, I'm going to be ripping on the Slate EV, the modular electric truck that's been making waves online with promises of being the most customizable vehicle ever. And look, I'm going to be honest, I actually checked this thing out and I dig it. I actually truly love it. But I don't think the future is bright for it. The modularity concept is sick, and the idea that you can swap out panels and reconfigure the truck? Oh, hell yeah. But here's the thing. This is where I'm going to rain on everybody's parade a little bit, because after digging into the details, I think the Slate EV is headed for a reality check that's going to hit it freaking hard. So let's discuss why this game-changing vehicle might end up being more of a toy than the mass market revolution everyone's expecting. The fatal flaw. Let's start with what I think is the biggest unforced error in automotive history since someone gave the green light to the Pontiac Aztek, which I actually didn't totally hate at the time. The Slate EV has no rear doors. Now, before you start with it's supposed to be a truck, not a minivan, hear me out. They're marketing this thing as an SUV alternative, something modular that can be whatever you want it to be. But without rear doors, you know what it can't be? A family vehicle. So if you're a parent with a couple of kids or even just one kid and that kid uses a car seat, you pull up to daycare in your new shiny Slate EV and now you're going to have to perform the pulled back muscle routine of climbing into the back seat to unbuckle them, lift them out, back out through the front door with your crack showing. This is something I guarantee you'll do once before you start shopping for something with 4 doors, because that is a real pain. There's a reason that even tiny sedans come with rear doors now, and there's a reason why the Jeep Wrangler 4-door is the most popular version ever. So you might scoff at minivans, but guess what? You're going to own one day. Parents want convenience, not an obstacle course, and no rear door is a big miss. By skipping this feature, Slate has essentially told every family with young kids, the demographic with decent income who's excited about EVs and willing to try new things, the ones that kind of live adult life and would be happy to buy their way through a midlife crisis, that Slate thinks, this isn't really for you. Instead, Slate is really inevitably a second car, a weekend toy, a commuter special. And here's the kicker. They could fix this with their own modularity concept. Maybe a rear panel with a hinge door, maybe one of the side panels of the truck bed would come off and could be replaced. I get it. You need to add a window, maybe it wouldn't roll down, but a compromised door is better than no door at all. Let's talk about the price game. Now, this is the elephant in the room, the price tag that's never really honest with EV companies. Slate loves to throw around that this is a $20,000 truck, right? But that $20,000 truck really isn't a $20,000 truck. Just FYI, I remember when you could buy a brand new Chevy S10 for under $10,000, $999, and I was loving it. But this is where EV companies all do the same thing. The fine print gets finer and the sale price number gets bigger. And that's only if you want the basic pickup shell with wheels. I'm talking bare bones vehicle here. No vinyl wrap, no back seat, the limited range battery, no power windows, no speakers, no touch screen. I don't even think the base model comes with carpet. Dude, it's kind of like ordering a hamburger and getting 2 pieces of bread and a middle finger. In reality, what you're looking at is a $27,000 to $28,000 truck before any tax credits, because that tax credit is $7,500 in general. And that's still for the basic setup. Oh, and those tax credits, yeah, those aren't guaranteed to stick around forever. Many of the EV companies use them up. There's only a limited amount for every EV company. The government changes rules all the time. Banking your entire pricing strategy on government incentives, it's what I call dumb. But wait, here's where it gets better. I decided to have some fun with their configurator. Yeah, I tried it. It's pretty awesome. They've got a lot of pre-configured models that are pretty inspiring. I actually did 3 models. A tan model, which I actually really want because it looks pretty cool. It actually could be a perfect weekend car for me. I'm out of the Jeep phase. I don't really ever want to buy a Jeep again, to be honest. And so it's like a little baby Land Rover to me. But I also did 2 other models, one that was inspired by Marty McFly's car in Back to the Future, and I called that one the McFly. And then this white SUV here, which I call the OJ. I'm not sure why, but that's what I call it. All right. It is fun to play with the configurator, and it turns out most of the upgrade options don't have prices listed. And I'm guessing that's because Slate doesn't actually know what any of them will cost until they figure out their production volumes. So you can play with the configurator. I can actually play with the configurator on the Lamborghini site, but I bet I can't afford the optioned up versions of either. So let me help you out with some educated guesses based on typical market prices that I've seen for other vehicles. If you want that rear roof to make it into an SUV, I am sure that will be $1,800 to $3,000, maybe even a little more depending on what it's made out of. The rear seats, so you can actually carry other passengers, that's going to be at least $1,800 to $2,500. Power windows, because it's not 1985 anymore, I'm sure that's a couple $100. The bigger wheels that don't look like they came off a golf cart or a Geo Metro, that's probably going to be $1,000 upgrade. The interior panels that actually have fabric on them and don't scream 90s Pontiac, that's probably going to be another grand. Upgraded bumpers, that's probably going to be $300 for the front and $300 for the back. Upgraded front and rear lights, that's probably going to be $400 in total. The swing out tailgate tire mount, I'm going to guess that's anywhere from $600 to $800. Speakers, so if you want to actually hear anything in the car, I'm going to guess that's a few $100. If you want to look halfway decent with the vinyl wrap, that's probably going to be another $700, assuming you install it and screw it up on your own. Carpets, again, not included. I'm sure those going to be $150 to $200. And yeah, keys. Yeah, Jerry, they start the car. Okay, I think the key is going to be free, but if you want it in that beautiful orange magma, I bet that's going to be like a $15 upgrade. Add it all up, and suddenly that $20,000 truck, I assure you, is pushing $40,000. My tan configured Slate SUV looks righteous, in my opinion, and I would love to have it. But I would bet my life that I will have one glorious night with Leighton Meester than that truck coming in under $40,000. At that point, you're not comparing it to budget vehicles anymore. You're shopping it against vehicles with actual track records and dealer networks and the ability to go more than 140 miles. Here are some uncomfortable comparisons that I'm sure the industry insiders don't necessarily want to make. Let's talk about what $40,000 actually gets you in today's market. For the same money, I could walk into a Ford dealer and drive out with the baby Bronco Sport Badlands with the Sasquatch package, which actually is pretty cool. I think the wheels look a little small for that truck, but it's still mildly badass. Or I could get into the base real Bronco that'll climb mountains and wade through rivers, and that'll get me to work on Monday, and that's only $38,000. These aren't theoretical vehicles. These exist, are available right now at dealerships. And if something breaks, you can get it fixed at thousands of dealers across the country. But let's get real brutal here. I think I know what really kills the transaction before it happens when it comes to people actually transferring money to buy the Slate EV. And her name is the Chevy Trax. Listen, the Trax is almost the perfect SUV. It comes in at $24,000. That's $3,500 less than the literal bare bones Slate EV. You know, the plastic pickup version, no radio or floor mats. For that money, you get ventilated seats, keyless entry, big touchscreens, CarPlay, GPS, power everything, comfortable ride, rear seats and doors to get kids in, and full-size humans. The ability to go 300 miles on a tank of gas before spending 5 minutes to fill it up to go another 300 miles. And here's the kicker. It can actually carry golf clubs in the back without reconfiguring or getting out Allen keys to take out the rear seat. Meanwhile, the Slate tops out at 90 miles per hour and has a 140-mile range and charges pretty slowly. Listen, I've owned boxy vehicles before. Jeep Wranglers. I even own a Commander. They're fun around town, but physics still exist and aerodynamics matter. On the highway, these things are loud, thirsty, and about as smooth as me with a pretty lady. Why did I still put a deposit down on a Slate EV? All right, so after spending the last few minutes tearing this thing a second frunk, you might be wondering why I still placed a deposit on one of these things. And the answer is because it's freaking cool. Look, I'm curious. I want to see how this plays out. I want to see what the prices are on the upgrades. Maybe they'll prove me wrong. Maybe they'll figure out pricing, add a rear door somewhere, create something genuinely compelling when it comes to signing on the dotted line. Or maybe I'll just get my deposit back and chalk it up to being entertained for a little while. It's because the Slate EV does have potential, and the modularity concept is way overdue in the automotive industry. The idea of a vehicle that can adapt to your changing needs is super appealing. But potential doesn't pay the bills, and it sure doesn't matter when you have a two-door micro truck and the car payment is that of a Land Rover Discovery, all right? Here's what Slate needs to do. First, please figure out the rear door situation. Make it modular, make it optional. Whatever the price, I don't care how you do it, just do it. You're cutting out half your potential market by ignoring families. Second, get realistic about pricing. If the fully equipped version tops out at around $35,000 and a bare bones model actually comes in under $20,000, you're probably onto something. But $40,000 for a vehicle with a 140-mile range, that's a tough sell to anyone who does math. I'm looking at like a Tesla Model Y at that point. And here's a wild idea that someone online actually mentioned. What if they had started with a gas version first? Stick a simple 3-cylinder, 130 horsepower engine up front, ditch the frunk, keep all the modularity. You could probably cut $3,000 to $7,000 off the price, improve the range dramatically, and make it accessible to families who need a first car and not just a weekend toy. So here's the bottom line and my prediction. The Slate EV will find an audience, people with disposable income looking for a fun, unique second vehicle. That's the reason I put down the $50 deposit. Car enthusiasts who want something a little different, don't want to buy the Jeep Wrangler, don't want to buy just a Mazda Miata, but already have their primary cars figured out. And there will be early adopters who love the modularity concept and don't mind the compromises. But will it revolutionize the truck market? Will it become the mass market success that supporters are predicting? I don't think so. Without broader practicality, competitive pricing, and basic features like the rear doors, the Slate EV is going to remain what it probably always was, an interesting experiment that appeals to a very specific niche. And you know what? To be honest, that could be enough. There could be several 100,000 people a year that buy this thing for a lot of focused purposes. It could be a great little truck to have in your landscaping fleet. It could be a great little electric weekend warrior. But let's stop pretending it's going to replace your family SUV or become your only daily driver, especially if you have multiple people in your household. Sometimes the most honest thing you can say about a vehicle is exactly what it is and what it isn't. So that's what I did. I went there. That's it for now. Peter Von Panda, out.